Welcome to Malice and Mystery, where shadows whisper and the unknown beckons. Step into a realm of spin-tingling horror, eerie mysteries, and chilling tales. From real-life paranormal encounters to unsolved enigmas and spine-chilling urban legends, we bring you the darkest stories from the shadows. Subscribe if you dare, and remember, some mysteries are better left unsolved. Real-life stories of doppelganger encounters. Today, we're going to be taking a look at some scary doppelganger stories from Reddit. So, let's get right into it. Number 10. This happened to me in college. Was around 18. The day before my 19th birthday, I was hanging out with some friends in our dorm building. We were talking about how weird it is that you can Google your exact birth date and find someone else who shares it. One of my friends jokingly said that they found a picture of their doppelganger online. As we continued to talk, my other friend chimed in and said she had just seen her own doppelganger in the mirror. She described the person as best as she could remember. We all joked around about how we probably weren't going to find anyone who looks exactly like her. So we decided to split up and go to different parts of the building to look for our doppelgangers. My other friend and I went to the bathroom and started looking for her double. After about 10 minutes, she was ready to give up, until we looked under one of the bathroom stalls and saw a girl who looked exactly like her. The girl was clearly uncomfortable, so we didn't try to say anything. But I'll never forget the look on my friend's face when she saw her double. My friend was also very pale and had green hair, but the doppelganger was tan and had dark brown hair. Still, no one could deny that they looked extremely similar. They were both wearing a gray tank top and jeans. And even though my friend is 5 feet 2, she looked shorter next to the doppelganger, who was about 5 feet 6. Even the most skeptical of us couldn't deny that this was uncanny. She literally looked like a darker-skinned version of my friend. It's been over 2 years since then, but I still think about how eerie that encounter was. And now that I'm older, I think back on how stupid I was for doing what I did next. I don't know why I did it, but I wanted to test fate. So I took a picture of my friend's doppelganger without telling her or asking for permission first. Now I have a picture of her and I feel bad because I should have asked her first. Anyways, I hope she's doing well and that she hasn't had any run-ins with her doppelganger since. Number 9. Sitting in my office today. A little while ago, I noticed a new student sitting across from me in my office. He came in without knocking and introduced himself to me with a smile, which was a bit unnerving because I knew all the students by name and he was one of them. Still, I was busy working on some stuff, so I told him to sit down and wait for me while I finished up. A few seconds later, he got up and started looking through my bookshelf. I stopped what I was doing and asked him if he needed something in particular. He replied by saying he was just browsing. I told him there was nothing interesting back there, and he laughed nervously and sat back down. At that point, I thought maybe he was just trying to be friendly, so I tried to engage with him. I asked where he was from, and he told me his name. He said he was from New York, which made me realize that my dad's name is also Name, and he's from New York. I thought, wow, what a coincidence. Then I asked him how old he was, and he told me it was his 20th birthday yesterday. I was shocked because my birthday is also yesterday, and I'm 20. I'm a woman, but still, what are the odds? Obviously, I was getting weirded out at this point. And if I wasn't already, I was now. He then started explaining to me how he had come to see me about a class. In the middle of him speaking, I interrupted him and asked him what he was wearing. To my surprise, he answered with the same shirt and pants that I was wearing. I got up from my chair and so did he. He asked me if I was going somewhere. I replied, no, I just need to take a phone call. I walked out of my office and called my husband. I asked him what he was wearing. He told me I was being silly and hung up the phone. As I turned around, I saw my doppelganger standing right behind me. He smiled at me and I screamed. I don't remember what happened after that, but I assume my husband came in and helped me calm down. I still work at that school and I haven't seen him since. Number 8. I was at a bar last week. There was a guy there who kept staring at me. I'd catch him staring and I'd look away. Then I'd see him looking at me again and I'd turn away and try to ignore it. Well, after about an hour, I finally snapped and I asked him what he wanted. He was clearly drunk and stumbling over his words. He apologized and said he didn't mean to stare. Then he explained that I reminded him of a girl he used to know. He was rambling on and getting more and more animated. So I started to walk away. Before I could get far, he grabbed my arm and pulled me back towards him. I yelled at him to let me go, but he didn't listen. Instead, he stared me up and down and said, "You look exactly like her." He then began to cry and begged me to help him find this girl he knew. I told him I didn't know what he was talking about, and I tried to walk away again, but he wouldn't let me. Eventually, his friends came over and pulled him off of me. I ran to the bathroom as soon as I could and locked myself in a stall. I stayed there until the bar was about to close. Number 7. A few years ago, my friend and I were working security at a music festival. She was stationed at one of the entrances, while I was near the main stage. As the concert neared its end, I realized that my friend hadn't come to relieve me for my break. Thinking she might have forgotten, I headed over to her booth to remind her. When I arrived, I saw that she wasn't at her post. Assuming she had gone to the bathroom, I walked past the entrance and around the corner. There she was, sitting on the ground with her head in her hands. Concerned, I asked if she was okay. She jumped, looked up at me with wide eyes and said, "I think I just saw my doppelganger." I urged her to explain, and she recounted seeing a girl who looked exactly like her enter the festival grounds. Intrigued, she got up to investigate. When she approached the girl she was stunned at was like looking into a mirror. The girl was even wearing the same outfit, but in reverse. My friend decided to have some fun and scare her doppelganger. She hid behind a trash can, waiting for the girl to pass by. When the moment came, she jumped out and said, "Boo!" The doppelganger screamed and ran away. Feeling terrible afterward, my friend came to confess. She asked me if she had done the right thing, but I had no idea. I'd never experienced anything like that before. A couple of days later, we found a piece of paper taped to the trash can with the doppelganger's name and number written on it. We never ended up calling her. Number 6. When my son was about 10 years old, he came home from school with an incredible tale. He had seen his double in the bathroom. While washing his hands, he glanced up and saw another boy drying his hands, one who looked exactly like him. He had the same curly brown hair, the same nose, height, and even the same freckle on his cheek. It was as if he were staring at himself in a mirror. Curious, my son asked if the boy was in his class, but the boy merely shook his head and walked away. My son later told me he'd seen this kid a few times before, but had never spoken to him. Strangely, it seemed as if other children always ignored this doppelganger, as though they didn't see him. When I asked my son if he'd ever talked to this other kid, he admitted he was too scared. A few weeks later, he saw the boy again in the same bathroom, drying his hands. This time, my son mustered up his courage and greeted him. The boy stared at him for a moment and then asked why he was talking to him. My son replied that he wanted to be friends, but the boy just shook his head and walked away. A few days later, my son came to me, excited yet calm. He had seen his double again, but this time the boy had vanished into thin air. My son wasn't scared anymore. He was determined to find him and ask what was going on. I encouraged him, but also warned him not to follow the boy. About a week later, my son burst into the house in tears. He had seen the boy again and had followed him outside, but when he stepped out, the boy was gone. I hugged my son tightly, reassuring him that I believed him and everything would be all right. I truly believe there might be a twin out there somewhere for my son. Number 5. I was at an amusement park. It was a hot summer day, and my family and I decided to go to the amusement park. While walking around, I saw a girl who looked exactly like me. She had the same red hair, same freckled nose, and was even wearing the same white sandals that I was. Except she had blue eyes and I have green eyes. She was with a group of 4 other girls, all of whom were laughing and playing. When she noticed me looking at her, she waved and smiled. I smiled back and continued on my way. I didn't think much of it until I realized that I kept seeing her everywhere I went. She was always a few steps ahead of me, like she was trying to lead me somewhere. I started to freak out because I couldn't shake her. Finally, I turned around and started walking the opposite direction. She disappeared. Number 4, I think I have a twin sister. I was adopted when I was born. If I was young, I always wondered if I had any siblings. My parents told me that they didn't know and that they couldn't find my biological family. I've always wanted to find my birth mother, but I never had the money for an ancestry search. Earlier this year, my grandma passed away and I inherited some money. I finally had enough to start searching. Started by looking through old family photos. I was hoping to find a birth certificate or something with my birth mother's name on it. But instead, I found a picture of my mom holding me as a baby with another infant who I assume was my sister. I asked my mom about the girl in the photo and she told me that I had a twin sister named Name. She said that I was adopted and Name was taken in by another family in the area. She said that they kept in touch for a while but eventually lost contact. She promised that she would give me more details later, but she never did. To this day, I'm still searching for my sister. Number 3, the girl who followed me. I was at a library and I saw a girl who looked exactly like me. She was a few years younger, but she looked like me nonetheless. I didn't think much of it until she started following me. I was getting stuff from the shelves and she would grab the same books and place them on the table. I thought it was pretty funny, so I decided to play along. I would grab different books each time so she would get confused. But eventually she stopped coming to the table altogether. I found her sitting at a computer reading a book on it, and I went over to join her. She looked up at me and asked me why I kept changing the books. I told her that I thought it was funny and she started laughing. We ended up talking for a few minutes and I learned that her name was Name. She was a year younger than me. We parted ways after I realized that I had to leave. I never saw her again. Number 2, stepping out of my house, I saw a man walking towards me. He was tall and slender, with dirty blonde hair. I recognized him as the new neighbor who had moved in across the street just a few days earlier. I greeted him, and he returned the gesture with a smile. That S when I noticed something uncanny. He looked exactly like my brother who had died in a car accident 5 years prior. Same dirty blonde hair, same height and build, even the identical mole on his left cheek. I froze in shock, and the guy looked at me puzzled. I managed to stammer out, "Are you, ... double quotes," and he responded, "Are you?" Panic surged through me, and I turned around and bolted back inside. I called my neighbor, asking if she knew the new guy's name. I didn't want to confront him directly for fear of scaring him off. My neighbor informed me that his name was Name. I jumped on Facebook and found his profile. Gathering my courage, I sent him a message asking if I could come over for dinner. He replied, "Who is this?" Clearly, he gets this a lot. I introduced myself and he then responded, "Oh, sure, come over." That evening, I went to his house. We spent the night talking, and he confessed that he had no clue why I was so interested in him, but he was kind enough to endure my curiosity. I still live across from him, but I haven't seen him since. Number 1, I was 18 and living at home. I heard a knock at the door and opened it to see a girl standing there. She was beautiful with long brown hair and green eyes. I thought to myself, wow, I haven't seen an attractive girl in a while. So I tried to make conversation. I asked her if she lived in the neighborhood, and she said she was visiting. We talked for a bit, and she told me her name was Name. I invited her in, and she accepted. I remember thinking that it was strange that she had no luggage or anything. Like she had just popped into existence. She was staying for dinner, and my mom cooked us both some food. We talked about a variety of topics, and it was honestly one of the best conversations I've ever had. Then she told me that she had to go. I was disappointed, but I asked her if she could stay longer. She agreed, and she stayed for a couple hours. During that time, I fell madly in love with her. I remember thinking that she was the most amazing girl I had ever met. She left around 7 p.m., and I didn't think much of it until 7:05 when I heard a knock at the door. I opened it, and there she was. She looked exactly the same as she had when I first met her. I asked her what she was doing here, and she said that she forgot her keys. I let her in, and she went to the kitchen to get a glass of water. That's when my mom confronted her. My mom said, "Why are you here again?" And the girl replied, "I don't know." My mom then yelled at her for being nosy and said that she should untrick people into letting her into their homes. I tried to defend the girl, but my mom was having none of it. She threw the girl out of the house, and I haven't seen her since. Thanks for watching. That was 10 scary doppelganger stories. If you liked this video, please hit that thumbs up button. And if you want to see more videos like this, please consider subscribing. I'll see you next time. Bye.